Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us on one of our educational videos. We often get asked the difference between white roses, so today we thought we'd concentrate a little bit on the varieties of white roses that are available to you. We're only touching on a small amount of white roses today because there are literally thousands of them, but we're going to concentrate on the most popular varieties that we get asked for, and give you a bit of an indication on what equates to what. Firstly, if I may just explain to you, when we say white rose, Mother Nature doesn't really create pure white. So as you can see, when held up against white paper, they are going to look quite ivory in their colour tone. Probably one of the whitest varieties that we can actually get hold of is a variety called a keto. That's this one. But as you can see, even the keto, which we would term as the whitest variety you can get, tends to be ivory against white paper. So as regards white roses, they all tend to be a little bit more ivory in varying shades of tone. Okay, so I'm going to start with Avalanche. Avalanche is probably one of the most popular wedding roses that we sell, and there's a good reason for that. It's very reliable, it's multi-petaled, it's easy to work with. 9 times out of 10 it's thornless, so you can see we've got literally just 2 thorns on this particular rose today, and I've got an 80 centimetre and a 60 centimetre stem length. I just hold them up like this, and you can also see the 80 centimetre tend to have a slightly larger head. So if I pick that up, you can see how the 60 centimetre is slightly smaller in comparison. So as a general rule of thumb, the longer the stem, the larger the head. And as I say, one of the most popular wedding roses, and there is, as I said, good reason for that. It opens up really well, it's easy to work with, it has a really good shelf life, so yeah, a really good bet. If you're wanting to put varying colours of roses together in a bouquet, but you want them all to have the same head shape, similar size and appearance, you can't go far wrong than using perhaps Avalanche Sorbet, Peach Avalanche, and so on and so forth. There is a huge selection of Avalanche roses. So that's our Avalanche, definitely one of our favourites. Let me go on to Athena. Now Athena does have the reputation of sometimes being called the poor man's avalanche. The reason for that is it does have a very green appearance to it, which Avalanche also have. They do have a green outer guard petal. Now, as I've explained on previous occasions when we've had our little educational chats, you can remove the green guard petals. It's not detrimental to the longevity of the rose. It just gives it a more pleasing aesthetic appearance. So this is Athena. So you can see similar colour tone to Avalanche, slightly greener possibly. Now, Athena also don't usually have a huge amount of thorns on. I've noticed today these ones are quite thorny. Next we've got one called Magadi or Magadi. This Magadi does tend to have a slightly creamer centre to it, and when it opens up fully it does have more of a almost going towards a buttermilk tone, I would say, as compared to the ivory white tones. So that's Magadi. Lastly we have the keto. Now this is an import, so it's imported from Kenya, Ethiopia from the fair trade farms. Now these are grown under polytunnels, so quite different to the Dutch ones that we get. The Dutch ones are grown under glass, so are slightly more protected, so they tend to produce a slightly more refined bloom. So the import from Kenya do tend to be very small, but the keto, as I was mentioning earlier, is probably the whitest rose that we're able to supply. I would say though they are very, very prone to bruising. They don't like to be handled too much, and if you do ever hit the ends they are going to bruise quite dramatically. Okay, so that's a keto. I've also got white spray roses to show you. Again, as I said, Mother Nature doesn't tend to create pure white, so they still have that ivory colour tone to them. We have Snowflake, which is one of the most popular white spray roses that we sell. It's quite consistent in the head sizes of buds that you get. I've got another stem here, so I'll show you. As you can see, you do occasionally get a bud with a couple of slightly more developed blooms, but you can see most of the blooms are pretty consistent. So they work really well for corsages, for slightly smaller wedding work, absolutely brilliant for hair flowers because you get that slightly more delicate appearance. They also work really well if you want a smaller rose to go with Avalanche or Athena, because again it's got that ivory colour tone. So that's Snowflake. If you wanted something that's a bit more blousy, that perhaps would complement a garden rose, but you want it in a spray rose format, have a little look at the Bombastic spray roses. The Bombastic are multi-petalled, very blousy, as you can see, completely different in colour and texture and shape to the Snowflake. Get your stem here. A really natural looking garden rose. As you can see how it's starting to open and develop there. It's really beautiful, but they are very subject to bruising. So there we have Miss Bombastic, which is, in my opinion, one of the nicest spray roses to use in wedding work. It's very natural, very multi-petaled, very blousy. There are alternatives. There's Super Bubbles, there's Belarus, all big blousy spray roses. If you like an alternative for the Snowflake, there's Jeanine, that's a very nice one as well. Slightly whiter in appearance than this one. Okay, so I've just spoken to you about possibly combining spray roses and the single stem roses together and shown you what a combination works with what rose. If you want an absolute perfect combination, there is a spray rose that's spray Avalanche. Now the spray rose Avalanche is obviously the same bloom, exactly the same bloom, but you tend to get quite a small bloom in the centre of the stem, and then you get 4 or 5 rather insignificant buds around the outside. So it's a slightly different format to your regular, if you like, spray roses, where you get, as I was explaining with the Snowflake, you get lots of heads that are of a similar size. With the Avalanche spray rose, you literally get one smallish, reasonably sized head in the centre, and then very, very tiny insignificant blooms around the outside. But it does work perfectly if you want to match your spray rose, your Avalanche rose completely. They work really well again for buttonholes, so you could buy the spray rose Avalanche and use the centre bloom for the buttonholes and then some of the buds for the corsages, or if you're adding buds into the buttonholes, it's a perfect combination. So that's Avalanche spray rose. Okay, so you can find all of these roses on our website. Don't forget though to give us a call if you've got any concerns, or use our chat facility on our website. We're more than happy to help you select the rose that works best for you. Obviously budget does sometimes come into it, and as we always say, it's a common phrase, but it's very true. You get what you pay for. But please do call us for advice. We're always at the end of the phone, or as I say, our chat facility. Thank you for watching.